A New Beginning, Steve's First Adventure, a Reiki-Deeki production. Chapter 1. A New Beginning. Steve woke up to the bright square sun rising over the vast landscape of blocky hills, rivers, and forests. Another sunrise, he thought, just like the last 100 mornings. It was another day in the world of Minecraft, but today felt different. He had been surviving for a long time, chopping trees, mining for resources, and building shelters, but he longed for something more. There has to be more to this world than just surviving, his mind whispered. He wanted adventure. With his trusty wooden sword strapped to his back and a small stash of supplies in his inventory, Steve decided it was time to leave his cozy little hut. If I don't go now, I never will, he resolved, though a small part of him hesitated. He didn't know where he was going or what he would find, but that was part of the excitement. He stepped outside, breathing in the fresh, pixelated air. Birds chirped from the blocky trees, and cows mooed lazily in the distance. Listen to that, he marveled. The whole world's alive out here. His house stood sturdy behind him, a small wooden cabin with a cobblestone chimney, a fenced-in garden, and a pen for his animals. I built this with my own hands, he reflected proudly. But now the urge to see what lay beyond was too strong to ignore. Steve took one last look at his home. It'll still be here when I get back, he told himself, though he couldn't shake the feeling that nothing would ever be the same. Then he marched forward, ready for whatever awaited him in the great, blocky wilderness. Chapter 2. The Creeper in the Cave. As Steve ventured through the dense forest, he kept an eye out for anything useful. He punched some oak trees, gathering wood, and picked berries from the bushes to snack on later. Always need more wood, he mused. Maybe I should have brought an axe. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting dappled light through the leaves. He could hear the gentle rustling of sheep in the grass and the distant sound of flowing water. It was peaceful, yet he knew the world of Minecraft could turn dangerous in an instant. Too quiet, he thought, instinctively gripping his sword tighter. Soon he found himself standing at the entrance of a dark cave. The jagged opening in the side of a hill yawned before him, and a cool breeze drifted out from within. Caves mean ores, he reasoned, but they also mean trouble. He knew caves were dangerous, but they also held valuable treasures. Just a quick look, he told himself. Gripping his wooden sword, he took a cautious step inside. The deeper he went, the colder and darker it became. His torches flickered, casting long shadows on the stone walls, and the occasional drip of water echoed through the cavern. Should have brought more torches, he realized with growing unease. Suddenly, he heard a sound that made his heart stop. Shh! Steve spun around just in time to see a creeper emerge from the darkness, its green, pixelated form glowing in the dim light. No! His mind screamed. Without thinking, he turned and ran, but the creeper was fast. Not like this, he thought desperately. Just as it was about to explode, Steve dove behind a rock. The blast shook the cave, sending blocks of stone tumbling down. Dust filled the air, and Steve coughed as he waved it away. That was too close, he shuddered. When the dust settled, Steve peeked over the rock. The creeper was gone, but so was the cave entrance. He was trapped. Okay, don't panic, he told himself, though his racing heart didn't listen. You've got a pickaxe. Start digging. Chapter 3. Digging to Freedom. Steve took a deep breath, trying not to panic. He had been in tough spots before, and he knew the key was to stay calm. He pulled out his wooden pickaxe and started chipping away at the stone. It was slow going, but he had no other choice. As he dug, he found a patch of coal ore. Using his crafting table, he made more torches, lighting up the cave as he worked. Shadows danced around him, but he pressed on, each swing of his pickaxe echoing through the cavern. He reminded himself to stay focused. Panic would only slow him down. After what felt like hours, he finally broke through to the surface. The fresh air had never smelled so good. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the land. He had survived another close call, and he had learned an important lesson. Always be prepared when exploring caves. Chapter 4. The Village Discovery. After his close call with the creeper, Steve continued his journey. He crossed a vast desert, climbed over snowy mountains, and waded through a swamp. The biomes changed around him, each offering new sights and challenges. Finally, he saw something that made his heart leap: a village. Excited, Steve ran toward the cluster of small houses and farms. Villagers bustled about, trading goods and tending to crops. Steve approached one of them, offering some coal in exchange for emeralds. The villager nodded and made the trade, giving Steve his first taste of commerce. He smiled. Maybe he could make a life here, trading and helping the villagers. He spent the night in the village, enjoying the safety of its well-lit streets. The villagers were kind, offering him food and shelter, but as he slept, danger lurked nearby. Chapter 5. The Zombie Siege. Steve woke to the sound of groaning. That's not good, he thought, instantly alert. He rushed outside to see zombies attacking the village, their rotten arms reaching for the terrified villagers. The iron golem swung its massive arms, knocking zombies aside, but there were too many of them. They'll be overrun, Steve realized with horror. Without hesitation, Steve drew his sword. I can't just watch, he decided, though his hands trembled slightly. He charged into battle, striking down zombies left and right. One down. Another. Keep moving, he urged himself as he fought. But he could feel exhaustion setting in. How many more are there? He wondered desperately. Just when he thought all hope was lost, the sun began to rise. As its golden rays touched the zombies, they burst into flames, disappearing one by one. Thank goodness, Steve gasped, leaning on his knees to catch his breath. The village was saved, thanks to Steve's courage. The villagers thanked him with gifts, armor, food, and tools. This is better than anything I could have crafted, he admitted, examining the iron chest plate they'd given him. But Steve knew his journey was far from over. He had tasted adventure, and he wanted more. This is just the beginning, he thought with growing excitement. And so, with new gear and a determined heart, Steve set off once again, ready for whatever the world of Minecraft had in store for him. Chapter 6. The Desert Temple. Mystery. Steve trekked across the plains, his new armor glinting in the sunlight. This iron gear makes all the difference, he thought, appreciating its sturdy weight. Soon he found himself in a vast desert. The heat was relentless, and he quickly drank from his water bucket to stay hydrated. Should have brought more water, he chastised himself, feeling the scorching sand through his boots. Just as he was about to set up camp, he noticed something unusual, a pyramid-like structure partially buried in the sand. A desert temple. His pulse quickened. Treasure, but probably traps too. Carefully, he approached the structure. The interior was dim, with only a few shafts of light breaking through cracks in the stone. At the center of the temple, he found a pressure plate in the middle of the room. Classic TNT trap, he smirked, recalling stories from other adventurers. Steve carefully removed the sandstone blocks around it and safely disarmed the trap. Beneath the floor, he found 4 chests brimming with loot, gold, enchanted books, and even a rare diamond. Jackpot! He cheered internally, stuffing his inventory. As he collected his treasures, he heard a strange sound from above. That's not the wind. His celebration turned to caution as he gripped his sword. Someone or something was outside the temple, waiting for him. Chapter 7. Ambushed by husk zombies. Steve cautiously climbed back up the temple stairs, his sword at the ready. Whatever's out there knows I'm here, he realized, ears straining. As he stepped outside, he was met with a terrifying sight. Husk zombies. Unlike regular zombies, husks didn't burn in the sun, and they were just as aggressive. Of course, the one time I want zombies to burn. Thinking fast, Steve pulled out his bow. Distance is my friend here, he strategized, shooting arrows at the oncoming horde. One by one, the husks fell, but more kept coming. They're endless. Panic crept in as his arrow supply dwindled. He had to escape. He sprinted toward a nearby dune, using his shield to block incoming attacks. Think, Steve! Spotting loose sand, he grabbed a handful of blocks and quickly buried the temple entrance behind him, sealing off the husks inside. Panting, Steve looked back at the temple. That was way too close, he admitted, checking his scratched armor. But as he organized his new treasures, a grin spread across his face. Totally worth it. Chapter 8. The Ravine Escape. As Steve continued through the desert, he spotted a massive ravine cutting through the landscape. Peering over the edge, he marveled at the layers of exposed stone, ore, and flowing lava deep below. That's a gold mine of resources, literally, he joked to himself. Carefully, he built a staircase down, placing torches along the way. Slow and steady, he reminded himself as he mined iron, coal, and lapis lazuli. Just as he was about to break into a vein of redstone, the ground beneath him crumbled. Oh no! Steve tumbled into a lower section, landing with a hard thud. Dazed, he heard eerie groans echoing from the shadows. Perfect, just perfect, he groaned, drawing his sword as zombies and skeletons emerged. His shield absorbed arrows while he struck down attackers. Gotta find a way out, fast! Spotting a waterfall, he made a split-second decision. Water beats lava every time. He sprinted and jumped into the cascading water, letting it carry him safely down. Emerging from a cave mouth, he gasped for air. Alive, somehow. He laughed breathlessly, wringing water from his tunic. Chapter 9. The Mysterious Traveler. The golden light of dusk painted the grassy plains in warm hues as Steve set up camp. He built a small fire, its crackling flames warding off the evening chill. Another day, another biome, he mused, roasting a rabbit on a stick. The scent of cooked meat mingled with the earthy aroma of the plains. As he ate, movement caught his eye, a lone figure standing motionless by a ruined nether portal. The obsidian frame stood jagged against the sunset, its purple remnants flickering weakly. That portal wasn't there this morning, Steve realized, his hand instinctively reaching for his sword. The traveler's dark cloak billowed in the wind, though the air was still. When he turned, his glowing purple eyes locked onto Steve with unnatural intensity. "You've been seeking adventure," the traveler said, his voice echoing as if coming from multiple directions at once. Steve's grip tightened on his sword. How does he know? And what is he? The hairs on his neck stood up. "Who are you?" he called out. The traveler didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his cloak and produced a leather-bound book. With a flick of his wrist, he sent it gliding through the air toward Steve. Before the book even landed in the grass, the traveler dissolved into a swirl of purple particles that scattered in the wind. "What the—" Steve approached cautiously, half expecting a trap. He picked up the book, its cover warm to the touch. The title, written in shimmering ink, read, "The End of All Things." Flipping it open, Steve's eyes widened. Detailed sketches of obsidian pillars and a massive black dragon filled the pages. Handwritten notes described something called an end portal and Eyes of Ender. The final page showed coordinates, numbers that matched the landscape around him. This is a guide to another dimension? Steve's heart pounded. A dragon? Real dragons? He looked up at the darkening sky. This changes everything. That night, Steve pored over the book by firelight. The more he read, the more certain he became. This was his next great adventure. Chapter 10. The Ocean Voyage. The coordinates led Steve to a sprawling coastline, where the water stretched endlessly to the horizon. "I'll need a proper boat for this," he decided, harvesting nearby oak trees. As he crafted the vessel, he packed supplies carefully. 3 days' worth of cooked meat, extra wood for repairs, and a compass just in case. Launching into the waves at dawn, Steve marveled at the ocean's vastness. Dolphins joined him, leaping alongside the boat. "At least someone's happy to see me," he laughed, enjoying their company. But by afternoon, the weather turned. Dark clouds gathered with unnatural speed. The waves grew taller than his boat, slamming against the wooden sides. This isn't normal weather, Steve realized as rain began falling in sheets. He bailed water frantically with his bucket, the boat rocking violently. Then he saw them, glowing blue eyes beneath the waves. Guardians? Not here, not now. Steve grabbed his oars as the first laser beam seared past his head, leaving a smoking hole in the boat's edge. The water churned as more guardians surfaced. Steve rowed with all his strength, zigzagging to avoid attacks. A laser grazed his shoulder, burning through his tunic. "Ah, that stings." He gritted his teeth and kept going. Just when he thought he couldn't last another minute, the guardians broke off their pursuit. Steve turned to see why and gasped. A massive structure loomed ahead, its prismarine walls glowing faintly through the storm. An ocean monument? But his relief was short-lived. The book's coordinates pointed beyond it. "Of course the way isn't easy," he groaned, adjusting course to skirt the dangerous monument. After 2 more harrowing days at sea, including a close call with a wandering trader whose llamas tried to board his boat, Steve finally spotted land. A dense jungle rose from the shore, its canopy so thick barely any light penetrated. Dragging his battered boat onto the sand, Steve collapsed. "Never again," he vowed. "Next time, I'm building a bigger ship." Chapter 11. The Jungle Temple Trap. The jungle was alive with sounds. Parrots squawked overhead, insects buzzed incessantly, and vines creaked as they swayed. Steve hacked through the undergrowth with his iron sword, sweat dripping down his back. Couldn't a portal be in a nice open plains biome? He grumbled, swatting at mosquitoes. After hours of searching, he found it, a moss-covered temple nearly swallowed by the jungle. Vines draped over its cracked stone bricks, and an eerie silence surrounded it. "This place hasn't been touched in years," Steve observed, running a hand over the weathered carvings. They depicted strange figures with elongated limbs. Endermen? Inside, the air was thick with dust. Steve's torchlight revealed intricate redstone mechanisms lining the walls. "Ancient technology," he marveled. "Who built this?" His foot pressed a nearly invisible pressure plate. Click. "Oh no!" Arrows shot from hidden dispensers. Steve dove behind a pillar as arrows thunked into the wood of his shield. "Think, Steve!" He spotted a pattern in the floor tiles, safe ones without pressure plates. Moving carefully, he made his way deeper. The inner chamber took his breath away. A massive stone face dominated the far wall, its mouth open to reveal a chest. But between Steve and the treasure was a pit filled with bones, and a skeleton archer perched above it. "Of course there's a guardian," Steve sighed. He grabbed a pebble and tossed it to the far side of the room. As the skeleton turned to investigate, Steve sprinted, leaping over the pit and tackling the undead archer. They crashed to the ground in a tangle of bones. One well-placed sword strike ended the fight. The chest contained gold, emeralds, and, most importantly, an eye of Ender. It pulsed with purple energy in his hand. "This is it," Steve breathed. "The first key." As he turned to leave, the stone face's eyes suddenly glowed the same purple as the eye. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. "The end is the beginning." "Okay, that's not creepy at all," Steve muttered, backing away slowly. He'd had enough of ancient temples for one day. Chapter 12. The Stronghold Below. The Eye of Ender floated upward when Steve threw it, drifting northeast. He followed it for miles across varied terrain, through birch forests, across rivers, and over hills. With each throw, the eye flew farther and glowed brighter. On the third day, something changed. The eye didn't just float, it plunged straight down into a grassy hill. "This is the spot!" Steve excitedly marked the location and began digging. After removing layer after layer of dirt and stone, his pickaxe finally broke through into open air. Steve dropped into a dark corridor, his torch revealing moss-covered stone bricks. "This is ancient," he whispered, running fingers over the carvings. More of those strange Enderman-like figures. The stronghold was a maze. Steve left torch markers to avoid getting lost. At one point, he stumbled into a library, rows upon rows of bookshelves filled with indecipherable texts. What happened to the people who built this place? He wondered, pocketing a few intact books for later study. Deeper in, the walls began showing signs of damage. Deep claw marks and patches of a strange purplish substance. "Something's been here recently," Steve noted warily, drawing his sword. Then he heard it, a skittering sound. Silverfish poured from cracks in the walls, their tiny bodies swarming toward him. Disgusting! Steve backed away, swinging his sword to keep them at bay. He retreated to a corridor and blocked the entrance with cobblestone. Note to self, don't touch the walls. After what felt like hours of exploration, Steve found it, the portal room. The end portal frame stood in the center, some slots already filled with eyes of Ender. 12 slots, and I've only got 3 eyes, Steve counted. Guess I'm hunting Endermen. As he turned to leave, A deep rumbling shook the stronghold. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike any he'd seen, a towering four-legged beast with too many eyes. It let out a guttural growl. "Okay, new plan," Steve whispered, slowly backing toward the exit. "Run now. Ask questions never." Chapter 13. The Hunt for Endermen. Preparing for an Enderman hunt required special gear. Steve crafted a pumpkin helmet. Looks ridiculous, but if it stops them from attacking me on sight, and brewed potions of night vision using the glowstone he'd collected. That night, he ventured into a flat desert biome, the perfect terrain for spotting tall, dark figures. The moon cast long shadows across the sand. "Like shooting fish in a barrel," he muttered, scanning the horizon. His first target stood motionless, staring at a cactus. Steve approached carefully, avoiding eye contact. "Just need to aggro it." He threw a snowball. He'd brought a stack specifically for this purpose. The Enderman's head snapped toward him with an unearthly screech. It teleported behind Steve in a puff of purple particles. "Whoa!" He spun around just in time to block its attack with his shield. The creature's long arms struck with surprising force. The battle became a blur of teleports and near misses. Steve would land a hit, only for the Enderman to vanish and reappear elsewhere. "Hold still, you overgrown toothpick!" he shouted after a particularly frustrating miss. Finally, with a well-timed strike, the Enderman dissolved into smoke, leaving behind a glowing ender pearl. "One down," Steve panted, wiping a sweat from his brow. "Only, how many more do I need?" The rest of the night passed in a similar fashion. By dawn, Steve had collected 5 pearls and a collection of new scars. As he trudged back to his temporary base, he passed a village. The villagers took one look at his disheveled state and quickly retreated indoors. "Rude," Steve muttered. "I'm saving the world here."